Welcome to the Veteran Business Community Podcast. Our guest is a true entrepreneur who practices what he preaches. Today he tells us how he transitioned from the military to building a portfolio of businesses. He explains how and why he made the jump from a W-2 employee to a full-time business owner. What saved his ass when building his sports complex business during COVID, and what he is doing to give back to educate entrepreneurs as young as high school students and people with special needs. So, sit back and enjoy this blunt, direct advice from a veteran entrepreneur.
You served your country honorably to keep us free. Now it's time for your business to make you and your family financially free. Inside the veteran business community, you'll find real mentorship, real resources, and real people who understand your journey. Join today. The Veteran Business Community Podcast. I'm David Jones, joined with my business partner here, Hal Fisher. And you guys are really in for a treat because today's guest, he's had his hand in so many different business ventures. I mean, honestly, I've known Brian for 4 or 5 years, at least here anyway, working with him professionally and doing some other things. And I still don't know everything he does, but he really does some amazing work, and he shares his knowledge as an educator as well. He's a veteran entrepreneur who's built really a reputation for doing what most other consultants won't. Pardon me, I got a frog here. So Brian LaFauci, he's the founder of One Strategy and probably 100 other businesses here at this point. I don't know. But One Strategy is really a firm trusted by different startups for, scaling companies. Different school systems use them at different education levels. And even the government. He's been working with me at the V-Block for years and years here at this point. He precedes me there too. And he really gets the real world results. So, just want to say welcome here, Brian, to the show. Glad to actually have you on. I was on your podcast a few years ago. Actually, I'm repping some swag here.
Oh, fantastic. We got new ones, so I'll throw it in the mail to you.
Nice. All right, Brian. Well, welcome to the podcast here. And why don't you just tell our listeners kind of your, starting out with the military side of the house, because, most of our listeners here are veterans, but entrepreneurs at least, or small business owners. And just let us know, how you got to where you are.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks for having me. Good to see you again, Dave, as always. Hal, a pleasure to meet you, buddy. Absolute pleasure. I'll give the quick background because I took a very unique approach, I think, to where I am today. And everyone's approach is different, right? How they land here. Traditionally, I went to school right out of high school, went to college, and then continued on. And I got my advanced graduate degree and was a school psychologist. And so around the age of like 24. I had a bunch of friends that had served at that time already for a couple of years, and I always really wanted to make that a piece of my life. And so I enlisted. I was like the second oldest person in my basic training class. I think I was by the time I went. So I enlisted in the early 2001, right before 9/11. And then by the time I went to basic training, I was 25. We did have a guy who was 30 years old from Puerto Rico in my basic training class. But so I started my military career there with the 143rd out of Quonset, Rhode Island. We were a C-130 unit. And I was a 2T2 for all my Air Force people out there. So loading, a lot of heavy equipment drops, right? Parachute rigging, things of that nature is what we did with our C-130 unit. Ended up getting my commission about 4 or 5 years in, switched over to personnel for a couple of years, and then popped over to aircraft maintenance as an aircraft maintenance officer, where I kind of finished up there. So along that timeline, obviously, I mentioned 9/11 in there because it threw a little trajectory in in how I ended up here. So when I graduated from my bachelor's, I kind of clearly wanted to do all the things, Dave. So I wanted to serve, and I wanted to start a company. And so the first company I started, a little before I enlisted, was a real estate company that I still have today. So we did everything in real estate, except we're not realtors. We avoided the realtor game. So we property manage. We were doing a lot of, back in the day when when there was a lot of opportunity to do renovation flips, as people traditionally know them. We were doing that, but then we did a couple, and then we're like, we should just hold these properties. We're like, selling them feels great in the short term, but so we got into more of the purchase. We would buy these distressed properties, rehab them, and keep them. So we were building up a real estate portfolio pretty substantially and pretty quickly during that time when you could.
Was this with some partners?
One main partner, another veteran, my good friend of mine, Peter Lawrence, who owns an insurance agency as well. And what had happened was, when I got my bachelor's degree and I moved back home, I was like, I really don't want to move back home. And I was like, and I really don't want to rent either. So I was able to, with the help of my parents, who were willing to co-sign for me, I bought a condo. And 6 months later, I sold the condo, and I made, for the time, like a significant amount of money. I'm like, well, this is fantastic. At that same time, my good friend Peter invested in a four family that he lived in. And so he was looking at other stuff. I turned that sale in and bought another house, did the same thing. So we kind of merged together. And we were like, hey, we're both in this space. Let's do this together. So we bought our first commercial property and then kind of continued to expand into residential. Throughout those years that was when I dipped my toe into entrepreneurship. And throughout those years, we played, Peter and I usually did a lot of stuff together, especially in those early years. We played in the used car sales space. We played in the vending space. Which were interesting. But they were interesting. They're both really cool models. One very heavily like cash flow based model, just trying to produce cash flow. The other, the car sales one we got into because one of the commercial properties we purchased was we purchased it for a friend of ours who was looking to go out on his own as a mechanic. And it had when we bought it, it came with a dealer's license.
Oh, I was going to say that's the pain in the butt right there, right?
Because it is. I don't really like people we did that because you get stigmatized. But we figured, hey, listen, there may be an investment lane here, and what you quickly realize is car sales is a hustle game, and if you're not devoting 60 hours a week to it, you fall behind, right? Because the people who are and really driving at it. So we played in those spaces a lot. Eventually, we got into more building as opposed to renovating because the market kind of changed a bit. So we were doing more developing and building. Peter and I still do a ton of this stuff together, but Peter actually went on and has done a lot more development than I have over the last couple of years. Really getting into like some much bigger developments, some of which I've invested in, some I have not. At one point in time, we liquidated some of our property and we purchased and renovated an indoor-outdoor sport complex. We owned and operated a sport complex, which was a cool venture as well. So,
yeah, how big was that thing? Because that's the one that you did your podcast out of, right? That's the one.
Correct. Yeah, so it was a 60,000 square foot facility in southeastern Massachusetts. That was one of the best entrepreneurial experiences, and I think, for our conversation today, we can probably spend a lot of time there in how that has related for me into my effectiveness, both in other companies that I have and as running our consultant firm.
Yeah, I was going to say, because, how many different revenue streams were within that? Like, what did that facility actually offer? Right, because that doesn't have like food and beverage too and all that.
So when we bought the sport complex, it was literally just that. It was a sport complex. They had a area up on a mezzanine level that used to be a banquet facility where they used to run weddings, but it was kind of closed down, and they were doing just heat and go. They condensed the kitchen to just stuff like chicken nuggets you can throw in a microwave, and it was pretty bad. So when we got into that, one of the models that I like to encourage all business owners to look at is how can you, especially business owners who are looking to have real estate as part of their entrepreneurial portfolio, is how can you build it and develop it in a way where you're kind of insulating yourself, helping you with debt service. And I think if we hadn't built it out, and I'll kind of talk through it a little bit, if we hadn't built out the sport complex the way we did, there's a good chance we would have not come out on the back end of COVID and been able to make a little money on it. Because way we structured it was we had the sport fields, which are your main revenue stream, but we built in these key revenue partners. So out of the 60,000 square feet, we took probably about, well, I would say 20% of that, and we parceled it out, bringing in value add companies. So massive value add to a sport complex is a physical therapy location for a number of reasons. I can't tell you how like wonderful it is, not when someone gets hurt, but when they get hurt and they literally can crutch over to a physical therapist who will say, yeah, give me 5 minutes, and then just give them an initial look over and say, hey, I don't think you did anything too bad there. Or you probably just blew your ACL out. You might want to call an orthopedic tomorrow, right? So that was a great value add. And, they paid us a monthly rental fee. And then we went and we found an athletic trainer, and they built out a gym. So we rented to an athletic trainer. We had a few professional services in there as well. And then one of our big rental partners, one of the things that we decided early on was we did not want to run a restaurant. None of us were restaurateurs. We understand what goes into that. And so we rented out with a pretty advantageous rental structure where it was a flat fee, plus all the money is in the booze, right? So we owned the liquor license, and we took a flat fee plus a percentage of the liquor sales. Nice. When COVID hit, we had been only open for about 7 months. We had done about a year-long renovation of the building right before that, and then opened up. The problem with that was, for anyone who went through COVID as a business owner, what you learned was all that economic disaster money, which was fantastic, was based on previous year revenue, which is not great when you were closed most of the year. Right. So I mean, I think we got, I think our check from the government was like $35,000, which didn't fully cover 1 month of expenses in a facility like that, right? So what got us by were our rental partners. So the restaurant was still able to operate in the capacity, like through takeout and stuff like that. So they stayed open and paid us. And the physical therapists were viewed like doctors as necessary. So they stayed open. Oh. And the gym stayed open because they primarily did individual training. And they had to close for like a month. But then they allowed like those kind of gyms. Your big Planet Fitnesses couldn't open for a while. But the small boutique gyms that were doing one-on-one training, they were like, well, okay, they were supposed to just test if you were sick, whatever, but they could open. So those and the other two professional services stayed open and paying rent. So that debt serviced us, right. That relationship. And we do this now with our clients all the time. I have a client that's opening this health and wellness practice in the mental health and physical health space, and combine the two together, which is super cool. And we help them devise that business plan in the same capacity. Like, okay, you're going to get in a space, your debt, your debt service is going to go up pretty significantly. How can we offset that? And so we structure a lot of deals like that, where there's that benefit.
Yeah, I was going to say it almost reminds me of, the multifamily thing. So for somebody that wants to kind of keep their overhead low for their living conditions, like buy a multifamily home, live in one of the units, rent out the rest to cover your debt. Same sort of model, but on the business side of the house, right? And you don't have to deal with everything. So it's not you running 10 different businesses within your business. You run the core business and let everybody else do their own thing, right? Generate their own clients and do everything. And they just pay you a nice, flat, fixed monthly predictable income. Like, turn it into a boring business, right? Is the idea.
Yeah. And a lot of times we'll advise people, we'll say, well, what do you need for your business? Like, oh, I need like 2,000 square feet. I'm like, okay, well, let's just do the math, because we can get you 4 for this much more per month, and those extra 2,000 square feet have the value of X. You know what I mean? So people they want to kind of always trying to like bootstrap, because we do focus on that a lot, right? I'm sure everyone here, we do that. We work with clients, we bootstrap them. But I think sometimes it's important. It's good to step away and say, all right, can we spend a little more here to put ourselves in a position that kind of insulates us a bit? Right?
Yeah, because I always think of like that kind of little boutique, service that's like, oh, well, I could be in like a little strip mall where there's like 9 other, businesses there, and I could rent one out for, $4,000 a month, right? And it's like, but that's a huge risk because you don't have control over that building, right? And you have no write-off, you have no depreciation, you have no other benefit from it. You're beholden to your leaseor, to try to figure out, what you're going to pay next year and the year after that. And every time you have to re-sign a contract, and they could boot you in most cases. Like, it favors them, the contracts, those lease agreements, right? I'm like, or flip it. You buy the whole damn thing, right? Because now it's financeable. Banks like owning actual real property, right? And then go lease out the other 9. Right? Have them cover your debt service, and then you can run your business with almost no overhead.
Yeah, I do. I do like that. I know, Dave, you were looking at models like that too in the storage units that you got, ways that you could bring in certain things to help offset and be creative with. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Without a doubt. So the facility like that we have out in New York, it was another value add opportunity, right? It was a family owned business. And they were doing like 11,000 a month in sales at best, right? But it was a hodgepodge thing. They had a couple of old units up, and they started throwing in, instead of building out properly, they started to throw in like a storage container and allowing like people just to drop junk on the property. It just wasn't run efficiently. And they had this beautiful, like huge canvas building, like 3,000 square feet, that they rented out to like 3 or 4 RVs in the off season. So that they made maybe $500-$600 a year off of that facility or that little building there. So we sold all the storage containers, built up, doubled the square footage, like put brand new construction there, doubled the square footage, kicked out the RV people, and then rented it out to someone that has a 5-year state contract to install all the telephone poles in New York.
Yeah.
And, so that tenant pays like $3,000 a month themselves. And then, on top of that, all the new places that we were able to rent up, it ended up jumping the revenue from 11,000 to like 26, almost $27,000 a month now, just from that within the last 3 years, 2.5 years, or 2 years since this construction's been done. Like it was a quick turnaround.
I think entrepreneurship is just a game of creating partnerships. I mean, in every capacity you look at it, right? So from sales, what are you doing? You're creating partnerships with someone, with all these people that value what you're making or your services, right?
Yeah.
In the end, we're talking about it right now. You're creating partnerships with people that are helping you get across the end line. When you talk about getting what you need, you're creating partnerships, right? So all that stuff.
Yeah.
Everything's partnerships.
Right. And strategic ones too, right? Like your buddy Pete, like, knows insurance. Like, that's key to have somebody on your team that knows insurance, right? Or that understands financing, like a CFO kind of, person that understands the numbers side of the house, and purposely strategically build your team like Hal, right? Like, when we started first, discussing stuff about our community, the veteran business community on the school platform, which, Brian, you actually turned me on to because you were first on the school platform. And then I was like, well, let me take a look at that for my consulting business. And thank you for doing that, because that's let us reach hundreds and hundreds of veteran entrepreneurs out there. So, but, Hal came in and he's like, hey, I'll handle all the, behind the scenes stuff, the marketing, the sales and stuff, and you just do the talking. I'm like, well, that's great, because I like to talk. So you deal with all the marketing and sales stuff and drive everybody here. And not only that, but just a wealth of business knowledge. So another person that I can trust, that I value his opinion, right? Because he has a lot of entrepreneurial experience, where we just, very quickly, I mean, honestly, our conversations are, not even an hour a week, where we can sit down and just bounce ideas back and forth, and, not taking pride in anything. What's your idea? What's my idea? Okay, let's move forward, and just respect each other and grow.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it sounds like you kind of developed it from like a strength-based platform, right? You were ideologically and probably morally aligned, and you're like, all right, we have these opposing strengths here that we can leverage for each other, which is 100% the way to go.
Yeah.
You know,
And I'm all over the place, right? Like right now, I'm interrupting you just to talk, right? And Hal is much more structured. Like he came in and he was able to, well, let's make this all look nice and let's put a structured thing in here and hey, let's build this. I'm like, yes, I know all those things I should have done. I just get distract myself and do other stuff all the time. So it's a great compliment.
Yeah. It's not where you want to play either, right? So if we're playing in the sandbox where we're most happy, then we usually excel. Right? If we I was talking about this with Heidi today, and Heidi is one of our managing directors of our company, and we're growing our marketing team, and so we're just trying to be a little strategic about it. And I mentioned the fact of like, she's like, well, who is doing that now? Who's putting together the long-term plan? I'm like, well, sadly, it's me. She's like, think about that for a second. Is that your wheelhouse? I'm like, absolutely not. And I know that, I know that. And I know that's why I got to get out of it, because if I continue to do it, we're just going to not do it well. And I'm going to have a task that I don't love, right? I don't I don't love doing that. It's not the part. I'm like you, Dave. I know where I excel. I know that it's good for me to be the voice of the organization. I know these things. And I know when I'm playing in a space that I shouldn't be playing in, that very quickly it just keeps getting punted on my work list, and it doesn't get done well. I just want to check the box and move on. Check the box and move on, right? For years, for me, I don't know what turned the corner, which is ironic because I teach business accounting at UConn, but for years for me, I would put our business finance to the end of the week, and I would love it when I just ran out of time. Like, I didn't want to do it. I just didn't want to do it. Now I love it. I don't know. Like I said, I wish I could tell you this is what turned the corner for me. But I think what turned the corner for me was actually just being more consistent with it and just getting more intimate with it, and then being like, oh, okay, I like this space. The reason I didn't like it is because I would end up punting it all the time, and then it just felt like a burden. But playing in your strengths, right?
Yeah, without a doubt, I am the. You look up procrastination in the dictionary, like I do it when it has to get done. I mean, I don't care how long you give me to do something. Give me a 6-month project, but give me 3 weeks to do it. I'm fine, right. But don't give me a 30-minute project and give me 9 months to do it, because it will never get done. I am terrible. But I mean, you are consistent though. I got to say, like, you do motivate me when I see you on social and constantly posting and staying out there. Like, it makes me say, oh, I got to keep up with it too. I know I got to get out there.
Well, here's like the behind the curtain, right? So that's not me. That is, I got the right person there that will get on my ass and say, hey, we need to do this. Give me 30 minutes of your time. I need A, B, and C. We're going to film. And then she makes it look, she does what she does with it. And then we are consistent and we're everywhere. And I'll give the overall, like I said, it'll be me who'll give like the overall, this is the plan for the month and the next month. But from an execution standpoint, if it was me, it wouldn't happen. I know that it would get, like that. Or it would happen, but very inconsistently, and it wouldn't happen with the same kind of purpose as having the right person doing it that loves doing that, that loves putting those together.
Yeah. So can you explain, like, have you been able to physically see that in your business, like that kind of, since you made the transition, the growth in your business, like what does that actually look like?
Yeah, and I think I can lay this out well for your, like, the other veteran community here, and I'm not the only one who's done this well, but the thing, I think one of the key things starting out was I had been consulting for a while. So back in 2016 is when I was hired by the SBA through the VBOC to be the VBOC director. And so that's really when I'd done a little bit of consulting prior to that, but it was more along the lines of, hey, I know you've been a business owner. Can you help me? Right. It's very, very informal. And so then when I took that VBOC job and was doing that for a couple of years, really you start to put together systems. And when we broke away from that, and when I say break away, obviously we've stayed 100% connected still to the VBOC to this day, and we do a ton of work for them. But when I left them, I literally left because that indoor sport complex I talked to you about just needed attention, and so I had to do that. When it came to the point where I said I think it would make sense to grow and scale the consulting that I do, which really was at that time that I do right now, to something that's a little bigger. The biggest thing was deciding who, from a SWOT analysis, like who to bring on first and where. I think a lot of times the misconception is when you ask people like what their first hire is going to be, it's usually along like, I'm going to hire someone to sell more, to make more money. Mm-hmm. And I tend to like buck the system a little bit on that, because sometimes, yes, sometimes I agree that's the right move. The right move is bring on the person who's going to drive more revenue in. For me, it was not the right move, because I knew where I lacked. And where I lack is, and I always relate it to building a house, because we do that, and maybe that's why, and I like that a lot. But let me tell you what I love about developing. I like going out to a piece of land that's like all just raw land and kind of laying it out. And I like going there in the first month when all the trees are cut and now you can see like the property taking shape. And I like going there in the second month when the concrete is poured and the foundation's there and they start to put a little bit of a road in there. And then I like going there in the third month where the whole building is shelled and up and you can see the structure. Yeah. My enjoyment and interest wanes from there. And if you take a bell curve, I've reached the peak at that moment. And then everything else from there on, slowly my bell curve goes down and down and down. Because as we get further and further into the details, I get less and less patient and care less, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, so I love operating at that level with everything. So from a company standpoint, I need to clear the land, put the foundation, put up the structure, and I need someone else to do the woodworking and lay the tile and do the detail. Like, I appreciate a mantle that is beautiful. I do not have the patience to watch. When I watch people doing that work for more than 20 minutes, I'm like, I don't know how you do that, because my mind can't sit in those details. So for me, knowing that about myself, the key, and actually I had a gentleman that I worked for years ago, and he actually offended me once, very much so, because in a recommendation for it was actually that VBOC job, they called him as a reference and like, what do you think about Brian? And he gave me a backhanded recommendation. He said, wow. Right, and Hal's eyes just went up. He said, Brian will be fantastic as long as you give him someone to do the details. And I was pissed. I'm like, why the fuck would you say that? I gave you as a recommendation. We have a great relationship. but I go back on that now, and I was like, okay, maybe he could have left that out, but I'm glad he didn't, because what he was really doing was setting me up for success, right?
Yeah,
he really was, because he's right. So my first hire wasn't anyone that could sell more. My first hire was all like back end admin. They don't make any money. They don't make any money. Like, and so like in the traditional sense, I'm very cautious when I say that, because I've said it once and I offended them. Like, what do you mean I don't make money?
Right. I get it. But that's that 95% of the stuff that you need to run a business that doesn't drive the revenue directly, right? But it's required.
It made everything else. It made everything else fall into place for me. So now I didn't have to do all these things that were taking a lot of time, that weren't allowing me to do the stuff I do well. And from there we were able to, and that was the foundation, right?
Yeah.
So the foundation was just putting myself in a position, and to do that, I had to literally take a little bit of a pay cut and say, I'm not gonna, we always want to make more money as an entrepreneur, and that was tough because I had to say, all right, I'm gonna pay someone else first. And it was
to do something you could do, but you don't like doing it. But
hard.
Again, it's where's your best time spent? Like I know, like my first handful of companies I started, they were solo entrepreneur things, and I'm building the website, I'm doing the marketing, I wore every hat, right? Because I could do it. And now I'm in the mindset of, why would I be doing a task where I can pay somebody literally $15 an hour to do if I can make $150 an hour somewhere else? I should not do that task.
Mm. One of the other ones, and a lot of my close friends will, they'll bust my balls about this one because it's low hanging fruit to make fun of me. But at a point in time where I wasn't necessarily like my company wasn't making the type of money that you would associate with this, but same thing. I saw such value in it. I hired someone, and they were doing admin work, and they were also driving me. So they were driving me because I had a couple engagements, one of them being my teaching engagement at UConn. It literally, it pulls 4 to 5 hours a week out of my week in travel. So it's 2 days a week. It's little less than an hour to get there. So it's at minimum 4 hours. If you got to stop one place, you're 4 to 5 hours. And I thought with what it would cost me to get someone to take me to they have other roles. This person does other things. That's not the only thing they do, but I work in the car and on the way back, both of those engagements. And then I'll have them do that at other times too. Right. So I just include, so, you wouldn't think, well, we're in a growth stage, we're still trying to get to a revenue point where we're not, we're not doing $10 million a year. That's an interesting hire, and so I do the math for my clients. Like, let's break it down. Yeah. What is your value? And I sold a guy who owns an IT company that still does some direct service work, right? So he's got an IT company, and I'm like, I just went through the process with him. Like, how do you make money for your company, you personally? He's like, well, I do all the 10,000 foot stuff. I'm like, do you do direct service? Like, do you work directly with clients? He's like, yeah, I do have a client base. I keep, these clients I started with. I'm like, okay. And so do you bill when you're working on their stuff? Yep. Like, do you drive to them to service them? He's like, oh yeah, all the time. Like, where are they? And so we just backed into it. Like, how much time is in that car? And how much could you bill working on other client stuff on those rides? And so when we did the math on it, it was a couple $1,000s a week. I'm like, you understand that's going to cost you $200 a week if you have someone take you to those appointments. You just sit and have them, like, for me, the UConn gig works out really well because I say gig is kind of funny, but my professorship at UConn, yeah, they wouldn't like that. My professorship at UConn works out really well because I have an office there. So my admin takes me there, but then has a workspace. Like, they literally sit in my office and work while I'm teaching. So they're not just sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah. So it's not a chauffeur, right? It's just a part of their role.
Chauffeur is part of the role, right?
Yeah.
But you can imagine, right? The first time I pulled up to something in that setting, because I have my workstation set up in the back of the car. There's a reason that people work in the back of the car. I realized very quickly, you're very car sick trying to work from the front seat. Like, there's something it's weird. And there's just more space back there to, like, lay stuff out, do stuff. But yeah, when your eyes can see in the periphery, for me, the windshield in front of you, and you're trying to work, within like 10 minutes, I was car sick. In the back seat, the seat blocks it, and so you don't get as much of that, and you don't get car sick at all. But you can imagine the first time I pulled up to something, and one of the guys that works for me was there, and I was dropping something off for him, and he looks and I kind of made a joke of it. I had Marion pull up. I just rolled the window down, right? But there, to the point made that these little things are things that can make you, if you know where your weaknesses are, just try to fill them. Just
Right.
bottom line, like, don't worry, get your weaknesses filled first. Like the two of you play so well together. It's a reason why Peter and I have had a real estate company together for 20 plus years, is because we are polar opposites in a lot of strengths. And and we have the same moral convictions, and I keep coming back to that because it's so critical. But we have the same moral convictions, right? And we have the same end goal, like, hey, what do we want this to be for us in the long run? And it works. It works really well when those three things are aligned.
Yeah. And I know for me personally, like, I like having a business partner. Again, people always worry about, oh, well, if you got to share profits or if you got to do this, I'm like, if it makes the company better, who gives a crap, right? I'd rather have a company that's growing and scaling and larger and share it than a little bit of nothing, all to myself. And for me, just personally, again, because I am a procrastinator with ADHD, and and I'm not a people pleaser, but I like helping out other people, right? That's just, who I am. So I will always, even if it comes to me making money personally, like, I will go help somebody else make money before I help myself make money. So I like having a business partner there because they hold me accountable, because now I'm responsible for them too. So if I had a task to do, it also affects them. So I'm more apt to do it with having a partner there, to be like, oh, shoot, we're meeting next week. Like, I got to get this thing done so I have it ready for the meeting, right? Because if it's just me, I don't care. Like, I'm not a materialistic guy. Like, I can kick it down the road. Like, I don't need to always make the money right now. So it's good to have a business partner for me. Right.
I agree. Yeah. And it's lonely, right? I mean, I've done enough solopreneur jobs that there's definitely times, and even in my role now, I have 90% ownership of my company. But our world that we play in it's very virtual. A lot of the work we do, we have to make a conscious effort to be in person. So it can be lonely. You can be in your own head a lot. And at least even just having that other person, like, you two having each other to have that hourly meeting and not feel like, there's times where I'm like, hey, just can you make this decision for me? And that, I just don't want to make it. Or I need someone to call to say, for two reasons. One, I want to share a win with someone,
right?
Because it's great, but I want to share it. Or two, I need to vent something out. Like, I don't need any guidance here. I just need to unload this off my chest to move forward. And so having that partner, it's fun. It's a game changer, and it's worth most of the time. It's worth the revenue you forego. Yeah.
So we kind of glazed over something a little bit. Just, I want to bring it back up again. So you were saying that you were working, with the VBOC and as the executive director in a W-2 role, correct?
Mm-hmm.
At the same time that you were also growing your sports complex, and then you made a conscious decision to move away from the W-2 and move in full time to your business.
Yeah.
Right. I know that's always something I'm sure it comes up with your clients too. When I'm consulting with, entrepreneurs, is when do I make that switch? How do I make that switch? Right. So what was the story for you?
I delayed that move as long as possible. I mean, there was a period of time where I was a W-2 employee, serving in the National Guard with that revenue stream, and had a real estate company and a vending company, and like, I love the concept of if you can and start a company with the backdrop of a W-2 job behind you for security, it's just so much easier. It's in my opinion, it's easier. It's less stressful. You got, there's this thing kind of sitting there and giving you a little bit of security, and I really value that. So for me, I think it was a couple things. It was one, I had gotten to a point where I was comfortable to let go of that security, right, with kids and all those things. And two, I was in a little bit of a predicament where I needed to, right? So part of it was I what I was ready to take the jump off the cliff and let go of the W-2. Didn't have to, um, but was in a position where I'm like, this is probably the best thing all around right now. And like, and maybe it's a little bit of old habits die really hard, but part of me really loves the fact that when as a teacher at UConn, there's still a little bit of my paycheck that has comes in a W-2 form, right? I mean, there's a piece of me that is I'm always um, I'm always thinking to myself in everything I do, and as a business owner, you have to do this. Where's the pivot, right?
Mhm.
Where's the pivot? If the world ends tomorrow, and or my world ends tomorrow, in what we're doing right now, if something was to change so drastically that I could no longer deliver this, what can I pivot to? And I think that's important as an entrepreneur to always know that. It's also important as an entrepreneur to know when the right time is to maybe pivot to a W-2. And that's hard for people sometimes. So sometimes it's absolutely the right move. I was working with this one veteran who he had a construction company and he just made some bad decisions. And unfortunately, Dave, as you know, and Hallie, I'm sure you've seen this, people come to us at a point in time where the decision's already made. Like there's nothing we can do. We can't turn back time. So the spot they're in is very difficult. And one of they're making difficult decisions like, do I bankrupt this? Do I and in that case, he, as much as he was trying everything to save this company, I'm like, I had to be 100% honest with you that your move right now is to stabilize your own income, and maybe we can then revamp this company, because he had scaled it up. It was just him and a truck and a guy, and they made a lot of money, and then they scaled it up, but they made some unfortunate investments when they did that, and it just all fell apart. And so he was looking to scale it back down, which I think was the smart move. Like, okay, maybe even rebrand, start over. You got the skill set. But in the meantime, I was like, I convinced him that go the W-2 route. Go be a project manager for a company, make a good salary, and start slowly building this back up. You can eventually walk away again, right?
Yep.
That's tough. For me, it was I think the key factors, if people are thinking about when the timing is right, what are the things that go into that, the most important in that decision? I think one is what your family life look like right now, because how much does this decision impact you or someone else? Two is your stage of life. I, I was fortunate that for some reason I was okay to take some risks when I was young, and I was scared, but nothing drowned me at the. I didn't necessarily. They weren't all successes, but none of the failures cost me. Eventually we divested from the car sales and the vending machines. And life just went on. It wasn't a huge deal. But knowing what I know now, I probably would have been riskier when I was younger, because age is one of them. When you're young, just go. Just go. I know as scary as it sounds, if you have an epic failure at 23, the reality, and I think everyone on this call, we're not 23 anymore. We could say, who cares? Like, who really cares? Like there is so much room for you to rebuild and do it 10 times better. And you'll learn so much from the failure anyways. So that would be the thing. I would have been a little riskier at a younger age, but as I got older, I was in a time of life where that would have impacted more people. So I had to be a little more cautious. So the other thing, so age, family situation, right? Is this gonna take you away from your kids? Like, are you gonna do something where you're gonna miss very important years? And then the third would be, do you have the right support around you? Without a doubt. If you're about to jump into entrepreneurship and you aren't seeking like all of the technical support that's out there for free right now. And even as I own a company where we make money on people paying us for technical support. But with that being said, and Dave, like there's organizations out there that pay us to support their clients free to the client. So there's just so much opportunity out there to put people in your corner. If you haven't done that yet, I highly recommend to pull the brakes and get a team around you, and don't do it in a silo. Don't do it in a silo. Do it with some guidance and good questions, and people playing devil's advocate with your idea to flush it out. And those would be the main three things. Team, timing, and I don't worry. People say capital all the time, like, oh, you got to be in the right financial state. Yeah, you do, but any good consultant's going to help you get there, right? So,
yeah. But I mean, I also tell people, like, so many times people come to you when they've already hit that end of the rope and they have nothing. They're like, well, now I want to start a business. And it's like, well, your credit's shot and you have no income. Like, you're not lendable either. So again, if you are strategically going to step away from your W-2, go and get access to some lines of credit now while you have that income, when you are lendable, right? Don't wait. Like, banks want to give you money when you don't need it.
Right.
They don't want to give it to you when you do need it. So if you're going to do it strategically. Suck it up if you need to for a few months, build it out to where even if you have equity in your home and that's what you're comfortable using, again, I mean, that's a personal preference. But, I know for myself at this stage of my life where I know where I can make money. I know where I can get my returns, right? So I have no problem borrowing, and using debt to buy assets at this point in my life. Now, should I have done it at 20? Oh, hell no. I would have lost it more than likely, because I just didn't know what I know now, right? And I didn't have the right support around me. I didn't have the people that have been there and done that. I was trying to figure it all out on my own. And I'm not talking traditional education either, people. I mean, we're all, pretty educated here on the show, at least School of Hard Knocks, if not anything. But that's where you're going to learn, and that's who you're going to learn from. Learn from the people who have already experienced the failures, because they know a lot more than anybody else. No offense, Brian, but that are out there teaching it. But
absolutely.
You actually do know
failures are the best. Yeah, I mean, COVID was a really tough time for us as a company, and it was definitely a failure. I mean, there's no, you can sugarcoat it however you want, but it was a failure. But what I will say is I would not have changed that. I wouldn't go back and change it. I would have done it the same way all over again, because it forced my hand into a space of discomfort, and to explore, like, all right, how am I going to figure this out? And then you just get better. Like, you get better, you get smarter, you get, you learn all the little things. But I want to reiterate, get money when you don't need it. Oh man. And I'll take it one step further is, there's times where I will consciously position myself to pay more taxes. When everyone's trying to avoid paying taxes, I will have years where I will tell my accountant, hey, we're not going to take write-offs this year. We're going to pay the government, because we had a good year, and I want to bump up all my lines of credit. I want to do all that consciously. So we're not going to play the, let's zero out our profit and loss sheet for the year, right? So even more than that, it's actually being a little more conscious about it sometimes, I think, is where people don't do that as much. They don't we go into fiscal years with the plan to pay the government and not do things that help us, decrease our tax liability, strictly because I know that's what the banks care about. They want to see a really, really good tax return. So I got to pay a little penalty for that. I got to pay the man every once in a while.
And you would think, like, banks, they know the game, right? They're educated enough. They understand how financing works. They should be able to look at the return and see, oh, this is how much a company actually really does make, regardless of what it says here, depreciation at the end of the year, what you pay in taxes. But banks are not always the smartest.
No. No, and not even that. It's like they just, someone up high set the guidelines, and then the underwriters, like, these are the guidelines they told me to operate under. And even if they can see it, If it doesn't fit for what they're told that how they should underwrite it, then they don't. They won't.
Yeah, which is again brings us back to that whole bail team and understanding to have the banker, accountant, insurance agent, and lawyer on your team that knows this stuff. Because you were just talking about tax strategy, right? Which again is something that people don't. It's an afterthought, right? But if you use it strategically, it can be in your favor. And again, get someone that understands the banking, that understands the underwriting process, so you can put yourself in a position to do it. So many people are like, oh, well, they didn't lend to me because of this, or it was because of this, or they didn't like me because of that. It's like, they don't care. Banks want to make money and lower their risk. That's all they care about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you need to put yourself in a position to be lendable, and people just don't understand it. So
bankers will say to you all the time, "We're a partner with you in this," and I will nod my head and say, "To a point."
Right.
Let's all be comfortable with being honest with each other here. I don't say that, I don't say it in a derogatory way or in a disrespectful way, but to a point. You're not signing your personal guarantee on this loan now, are you? So.
Right. That was my reply that one time when they said I didn't have enough skin in the game because we raised investor money. And they're like, well, we need you to put skin in the game. And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm going to work for free for 3 or 4 years. I said, second of all, I have a personal guarantee on multi-millions of dollars of debt here. So if this goes south, like, you're not going to lose your home, are you? But I am. Right. So I think that's enough skin in the game.
Right.
Yeah, let's not get on that soapbox because I could talk all day. So, I'm curious, like, so where are you now? So you went through the whole phase where you had the sports complex and you exited that one, correct? Yeah. So after you exited that, like you do a lot of stuff now. You're working in schools. Obviously, we know your UConn stuff, but you're doing a lot of stuff in the high school level too.
So we just went through a really nice rebrand with one strategy, with a little bit too, a big piece of that being like how we talk about what our company is. So we're starting to refer us to ourselves as a human capital innovation firm. And the reason why we kind of landed there, and we felt really like excited and comfortable with that as a mark in the ground for what we really are, is because we're building human capital at various stages of individuals' lives through entrepreneurship. So we have 3 main lanes of product and service that we deliver. So one of our main lanes is our Why to How entrepreneurial education program, which is what you're referring to in high schools and colleges. So in that lane, we deliver entrepreneurial education in a year-long platform with follow-on support available for anyone who completes our program. Just continue on with business support at no charge to them. So we deliver that to individuals 14 to 22 and some a little older at the collegiate level, but high schools and colleges throughout New England. Our main, we started in Rhode Island, so Rhode Island is the most robust of those right now. But this coming school year, we'll be expanding that in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. In New Hampshire, hopefully, it looks like we should get the thumbs up there pretty soon. And the way we run that program is our instructors who they're not teachers, right? They're entrepreneurs, or they have they're in a career field that has a very entrepreneur feel to it. So what does that mean? Like, I look at people in that are financial managers, or where they may be under an umbrella, a company, but they really are doing everything entrepreneur. They're curating their own leads, they're getting clients, they're selling clients, closing deals, managing clients, right? Maybe the parent company is doing a lot of marketing for them, but at the end of the day, it feels very entrepreneurial.
Yeah, like they're building their own book of business, right?
Yep. Yeah. So we have 18 instructors that are working for us right now in those spaces, and they're going into schools once a week for the entire year, and our curriculum is broken up into a 101 and a 201. So the first half of the year, they deliver the 101, and they get all students to the point of completed business plan. And we are working with a massive, diverse population here. We've successfully taken a group of 5 or 6 medically fragile special education students, most of whom are nonverbal, and gotten them to the point of a combined business plan together. And just with really amazing results, all the way through individuals who are in a entrepreneurial CT pathway, looking to go on to Babson, Brown, Bentley from completion of their high school career. So the span of students we're working with is pretty immense. We impacted over 700 students with this program last year. So first year, the first half of the year, we do take them to completion of a business plan. And then the second half of the year, we actually get them to launch in a vendor fair. So we have both our company and a partnership with a nonprofit called Progress Works New England that focuses on the entrepreneurial development of young adults, individuals with disabilities, and veterans. They help us to seed fund every student that goes through our program to get them to a vendor table to sell their product or service at this culminating event. And sometimes we teach them how to pivot, right? So we'll have a student that maybe is developing an app, and that app isn't ready for release by the end of the year. So we'll have them develop some merchandise to sell to promote that app, and they'll sell the merchandise. So we've seed funded over $20,000 back to our students since we've started that program. And they have in turn sold and kept over $30,000 in profit. Average student sales for the 1 hour vendor fair that we host is over $150 in an hour. A lot of times I'm like, I need to quit what I'm doing and just do what we're telling them to do. And so, it's really cool. We get a lot, we give a lot back, and then we have a follow-on program when they go through that where they can come on this adolescent call with us every other week and continue to grow and launch their business. And so we have steady participation on that call. It's pretty awesome. So that's the education lane you're talking about. Our middle lane that sits right in the middle of our company is what we're kind of founded on. Is our One Strategy Consulting, where we do startup growth and exit consulting for the gamut, right? All different shapes and sizes and stages of companies. And then the third lane that we operate in is our M&A plus mergers and acquisitions. We do business brokerage and beyond, which is why we termed it M&A plus. So we take companies to what is usually their moment of retirement, right? Take an individual and get their company on the market and sold for them. We do far beyond just manage the transaction. We have a 2-day financial, mental, vision reset that we offer to our clients, where we take our clients on this retreat, and we provide them with some mental clarity. We do a lot of like deep meditation work, and then we go into resetting their next future goals. So one of the biggest issues in company sales, especially companies that have been, you've owned for 10, 20 years and now you divest from it, is people get really excited because they see this big check. And they think their life is going to feel like X, and the reality is it feels very different almost every time. And it's not as gratifying as they think it was going to be. Oftentimes the money isn't as much as they think it's going to be, in the sense of, oh, now I'm on a fixed income. Whereas the beauty of entrepreneurship is we're never on a fixed income, really. Like if I want to work 80 hours this week because I need to drive revenue, I can do that. And I can just, but the minute that sale happens, now we're meeting with our financial advisor, or some who don't have them. So we do a financial reset for them. We do a vision reset, like where you're now going to find your purpose. And we do all that in the M&A plus lane as well. So that's what we do. I go back to, how we landed at human capital. We're a human capital innovation firm, is because in each one of those phases, we're helping people grow the value of themselves. That's when you break it down, as a youth looking for purpose, there's nothing better than developing your own thing and being financially rewarded for it. As far as like finding value in yourself goes, in the middle there in consulting, pretty obvious, right? So we hold a lot of our sense of self in the company we started, and helping them achieve success there really adds to sense of self. And then at the end state, that's legacy planning, and it's all about like, this is what I've done and created. So that's what we do.
So, but the funny thing is, everything's strategic, right? Like if you want to be successful, it doesn't just happen, right? There's conscious, pivot points, growth points, exit points, and they all have to be planned out properly if you want to benefit fully from it. So that's a key thing. All right. So as we wrap up here, first of all, thank you for your time here, Brian. I'm sure we could go on for a long time because there's a lot of things we didn't even get into that I know you have your fingers in, but where can people find you? What's the best way to get in contact with you there? One strategy.
So I don't even want to send them to our website because we're relaunching our website in just a couple weeks, and I want them to wait, but that's all right. It's all right. We'll send them there, and then we'll just ask them to go back again. And but you can find us at One Strategy. One is spelled W-O-N. So onestrategy.com. I can throw it in the comments there.
Is that backwards? That shows backwards.
Hey, no, it's not backwards. You're not.
Is it not backwards? All right, cool.
No, you're not mirrored, which is great. So you're good. Onestrategy.com is the best place to find us. And we always love to ask people to follow us on our social media channels on LinkedIn, follow us on Instagram. We really do a nice job of showcasing all our clients' work in those spaces. So that'd be great.
Yeah. So, and just so everybody knows too, so obviously this is a LinkedIn Live. It'll get reposted here on our LinkedIn feeds, at least mine. You'll see it there. And I'll probably repost this again at some point in the future, but this will also live in our veteran business community. So Hal and we run the veteran business community there on the school platform. And that's where we have probably close to a dozen courses here now for building and growing your business and all the tools that you would need to do so. So there's, a free version where people can go there, and everything that you would need to know to launch a business is all there, access to you for free. These kind of live streams we record and we post there. So any of the weekly podcasts that we have there, people can go back and rewatch those. So Brian, people will be able to see this, weeks ahead. So hopefully the website will be up and running
that would be perfect
by the time they see it.
Yeah, timing will be great.
Yeah. And by the time I finish the editing and post it over there, you got at least a few days there anyway.
Just clean up my hair, right?
I could do some creative things.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to go over there, veteranbusinesscommunity.com, it'll shoot you right over to the community. And again, free stuff there for anybody that wants to launch a business if you're in the idea phase. But if you are an existing business, we have, again, a good dozen or so courses to help you with building business credit, how to sell to the government, and a bunch of other resources there. Not only that, but there's live training too. So Hal and we're there. You can direct message us. We'll have live feeds with group consulting calls that you can get access to us. So you can literally ask us the questions specifically about your business, and we'll be able to answer it to you. So there's that going on. This is also, so I do take the audio file from this too, and you'll find it on all your major podcasts too. So if people give me a few days, I usually get it posted over there. It's just called Veteran Business Community. You can find it on wherever you listen to your podcast there too. So, all right. Well, that's all I got. You gentlemen have anything else here?
No, I just want to thank you, Hal, Dave. Thank you so much for the time today. Really, really appreciate it. It's always great to spend time with you, Dave, and Hal. I look forward to hopefully us having a conversation in the near future.
Awesome. All right, guys. All right. As always, stay profitable. We'll catch you on the next one.
Take care.
See you.